Hello everybody, welcome to the latest KBC vlog. You join me on quite a warm day in the church office when I'm recording this, hence the t-shirt, and the fan is blowing, but you can't tell because it's not making much indentation on my hairstyle, is it? Let's be honest. Today we're thinking under the title, The Crumbs Under Thy Table. Now that might evoke some thoughts from you, if you know maybe where that passage comes from. If you don't, please pause this video for a moment or two, go away and look at Matthew's Gospel and read from chapter 15, just a few verses today, verses 21 to 28. Matthew 15, 21 to 28, and then do please come back to me. I want to read to you today from Reading Between the Lines, this excellent resource that we have been using for some time, written by a guy called Glenn Scrivener. And he writes this today. Thomas Cranmer was the Archbishop of Canterbury at the time of the Reformation. His most famous work was the Book of Common Prayer, and its most famous prayer is known as the Prayer of Humble Access. And it's said prior to receiving the Lord's Supper, or communion, as we might refer to it here at KBC. Here's what the prayer says in the Book of Common Prayer. We do not presume to come to this thy table, O merciful Lord, trusting in our own righteousness, but in thy manifold and great mercies. We are not worthy so much as to gather up the crumbs under thy table, but thou art the same Lord, whose property is always to have mercy. Now we try and not use language that's kind of stuck in the 1600s here at KBC, but you'll understand why I've read that today from the Book of Common Prayer back in the days of the Reformation. But the phrase, the crumbs under thy table, it comes from the story that Jesus tells in the passage that I've just asked you to look at in Matthew 15, this story of the Canaanite woman. What's happening? Well, Jesus has left Jerusalem, the city of God. He's in the vicinity of Tyre, which Ezekiel refers to as the city of Satan. So he's in enemy territory. But everything upends expectations. Israel was full of holy-looking men who were really unclean, and now he meets a Canaanite woman and finds great faith. Well, what does this great faith look like? She presses into Jesus with her arms outstretched, and she leaves her hands open till he fills them. However, perhaps you're asking, why did Jesus make her wait so long? To explain, Jesus asks us to imagine a family where all the children are hungry and are crying out for food. Under the table yelps an equally hungry dog. In this scenario, no self-respecting parent would feed the dog first. No, there's an order to things. First the children and then the dogs, verse 26 tells us. In this illustration, the children are the Jews, the dogs are the non-Jews or the Gentiles, and the bread, well, that's Jesus himself. Now, if we think that that analogy is insulting to non-Jews, the Gentiles, just think how much more insulting it is to Jesus. At least dogs are sentient beings. Jesus is represented by a foodstuff. But of course that's pressing the details too far. Jesus is not saying that the Gentiles are like dogs in every sense. He's far more complimentary to the people of Tyre than he is to the people of Jerusalem. There are only two people that Jesus ever credits with great faith. Neither of them were Jewish. The centurion that we read of in Matthew chapter 8, and this woman here today. And this household analogy that Jesus makes is making a limited point. The children get the bread first, and the Jews get Jesus first. Only when he rises again does the Jesus mission officially burst the banks of Israel and flood the world. In verse 27, the woman shows that she understands Jesus' lesson. She immediately picks out the most important truth. She knows whether you're a child or whether you're a dog, you need bread. You need feeding. Essentially, the woman blurts out, just give me crumbs, whatever I can get. She knows that Jesus is the solution to all of her problems. If she can just get a morsel of Jesus, she'll be happy. Essentially, she says, Put me second, Jesus, I don't mind. Feed your people first. That's okay. I know that I am outside the covenant people of God. I don't presume to come to this your table trusting in my own righteousness, but in your manifold and great mercies. I might be second, but give me seconds. The scraps from your table are greater than the feasts from emperors. If all I get is a crumb, that's all I need, because you are the bread of life. So how will Jesus respond to this? Well, we read, don't we, in verse 28. Jesus said to her, Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted. And her daughter was healed at that moment. She stretches out her hands and holds them there until Jesus fills them, and he fills them to overflowing, doesn't he? He doesn't just give her crumbs, but he feeds her immeasurably. Is it his property? It is his property, rather, always to dispense mercy. Does Jesus seem like he's withholding something from you today? Does it feel like his grace is for everyone else and that you'll never get your turn? Do what this woman did. Press in closer. Hold out your hands. You won't just get crumbs. This bread of life is for you too. May the Lord bless you today and bring this truth into your hearts wherever you are today. See you soon. God bless.